A bombshell erupts in the Senate as Pam Bondi unveils secret documents alleging Justice Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation was tainted by hidden deals, sparking a fiery clash that threatens the Supreme Court's integrity. The Senate Judiciary Committee chamber buzzed with an electric tension, the air thick with anticipation as cameras flashed and reporters scribbled furiously. It was April 28, 2025, and the nation's eyes were fixed on a hearing that promised to shake the foundations of the judiciary. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, known for her unrelenting prosecutorial style, stood at the podium, her expression steely as she faced the committee. Her reputation as a fierce conservative advocate preceded her. But today, she wasn't just defending a cause. She was launching an attack that could redefine public trust in the Supreme Court. Across the room, Justice Amy Coney Barrett sat, composed, her hands folded neatly, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm brewing around her. The two women, both legal titans, were about to collide in a confrontation that would dominate headlines for weeks. Bondi's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. "Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I come before you today with evidence of a grave breach of judicial integrity," she declared, holding up a stack of documents that seemed to radiate menace. The room fell silent, every ear straining to catch her next words. These papers, obtained through meticulous investigation, reveal a secret arrangement made during Justice Barrett's confirmation process in 2020. They suggest that Justice Barrett made prior commitments to certain parties regarding how she would rule on pivotal cases before the Supreme Court. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The accusation was explosive. A Supreme Court justice, bound by promises made in the shadows, undermining the very impartiality that defined the court's legitimacy. Barrett's face remained impassive, but her eyes locked onto Bondi with a quiet intensity. The documents, Bondi claimed, included emails and memos from unnamed sources within the Trump administration, hinting at closed-door meetings where Barrett allegedly assured influential figures of her stance on issues like abortion, gun rights, and election law. Bondi's tone grew sharper as she read from one alleged email. "ACB understands the expectations and will deliver." The initials sent a chill through the room. Was this proof of a deal or a carefully crafted smear? Bondi pressed on, her words dripping with accusation. "This is not speculation. This is evidence of a justice compromising her oath before she even took it." The committee's Democratic and Republican senators shifted uncomfortably, aware of the political dynamite being detonated. Senator Lindsey Graham, a key figure in Barrett's confirmation, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Ms. Bondi, you're making serious claims," he said, his South Carolina drawl tinged with skepticism. "I hope you're prepared to substantiate them." Bondi didn't flinch. "I am, Senator. These documents are just the beginning. There's more to come." Her promise hung in the air, a challenge to Barrett and her defenders. Barrett's legal team, seated behind her, whispered urgently, passing notes as Bondi continued her assault. The justice herself requested to respond, her voice steady but firm. "Ms. Bondi's allegations are a gross mischaracterization of my actions and my character," she said, her words measured yet carrying an undercurrent of defiance. "I have never made promises or commitments regarding my judicial decisions. These documents, if they exist, are either fabricated or misconstrued. I welcome a full investigation to clear my name." Her call for transparency was met with murmurs of approval from some senators, but Bondi's smirk suggested she wasn't done. As the hearing broke for a recess, the chamber erupted into chaos. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions at Bondi and Barrett's team. Outside, protesters, some chanting for judicial reform, others defending Barrett's integrity, clashed in the April sunlight. The documents, real or not, had ignited a firestorm. Were they the key to exposing a corrupted confirmation, or a desperate attempt to tarnish a justice's reputation? The answer lay buried in the pages Bondi held, and the nation waited to see what she'd reveal next. The recess ended, and the Senate Judiciary Committee chamber crackled with renewed hostility. Reporters, still buzzing from the chaos outside, scrambled to their seats as Pam Bondi returned to the podium, her eyes glinting with purpose. The documents she'd brandished earlier now lay spread before her, an arsenal of paper and ink that threatened to unravel Justice Amy Coney Barrett's legacy. Barrett, seated across the room, maintained her serene composure, but the slight tightening of her jaw betrayed the weight of the moment. The nation watched, breathless, as the confrontation reignited, each word a spark in a powder keg of distrust. Bondi wasted no time. "Senators, let's be clear. These documents are not mere rumors," she said, her voice slicing through the room. She held up a single page, its contents obscured, but its presence ominous. "This is a memo from a senior Trump administration official, dated September 2020, just days before Justice Barrett's nomination. It outlines a meeting where she allegedly agreed to prioritize certain judicial outcomes in exchange for a smooth confirmation." The accusation landed like a grenade, and the chamber erupted in murmurs. Bondi read aloud, "ACB assures us she's aligned on key issues. Confirmation is secure." The words echoed, each syllable a blow to Barrett's reputation. Senator Dick Durbin, the committee's ranking Democrat, leaned into his microphone, his tone sharp. "Ms. Bondi, you're implying a conspiracy that would shake the judiciary to its core. Where did this memo come from, and why should we trust its authenticity?" Bondi's lips curled into a faint smile. "The source is credible, Senator, and protected for their safety. But the memo's details, dates, names, locations, match known events from the 2020 confirmation process. Coincidence? I think not." Her confidence was unshakable, but Durbin's skepticism mirrored the doubts of many in the room. Barrett's legal team sprang into action. Lead counsel, Margaret Kessler, a seasoned litigator with a reputation for dismantling weak cases, rose to challenge Bondi. "Ms. Bondi, you've presented a single page with no context, no signature, and no verifiable origin," Kessler said, her voice calm but cutting. "This could be a fabrication, a draft, or even a misunderstanding. Why haven't you provided the full document trail?" Bondi's eyes narrowed, but she didn't falter. "The full trail is coming, Ms. Kessler. I'm not here to spoon-feed you. I'm here to expose the truth." The exchange was a verbal duel, each woman parrying with precision, neither yielding an inch. The senators, sensing the stakes, pressed Bondi for more. Senator Ted Cruz, a vocal supporter of Barrett's nomination years ago, demanded specifics. "If you're accusing a sitting justice of misconduct, Ms. Bondi, you'd better have more than vague memos. Who wrote this? Who received it?" Bondi hesitated for the first time, her pause amplifying the tension. "The author's identity is sensitive, Senator, but their role in the administration is undeniable. I'll reveal more when the time is right." Her evasion drew skeptical glances, but she pivoted, producing another document. An email chain allegedly between two unnamed aides discussing Barrett's commitments. The ambiguity only fueled the fire. Barrett, granted another chance to respond, stood and faced the committee. "These accusations are an assault not just on me, but on the Supreme Court's independence," she said, her voice steady but laced with resolve. "I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, not to serve any agenda. Ms. Bondi's documents are riddled with inconsistencies, and I challenge her to prove their authenticity." Her defiance rallied her supporters, but Bondi's unwavering stare suggested she had more to unleash. As the session adjourned for the day, the chamber remained a cauldron of unrest. Outside, protesters grew louder, their chants of "justice for the court" and "defend Barrett" clashing in the spring air. The media frenzy intensified, with pundits dissecting every word. Bondi's documents, shrouded in mystery, held the key to the truth. or a dangerous lie? What secrets did her next revelation hold, and could Barrett withstand the onslaught? The dawn of the next Senate Judiciary Committee session brought no calm to the storm. The chamber, still simmering from the previous day's clashes, hummed, with a volatile energy as senators, staffers, and spectators packed the room. Outside, the spring air vibrated with the dueling cries of protesters, their signs demanding truth or loyalty in equal measure. Pam Bondi strode to the podium, her face a mask of determination, clutching a new folder that promised to escalate the battle against Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Barrett, seated with her legal team, exuded a quiet strength, but the weight of Bondi's relentless accusations was palpable. The nation held its breath, sensing the confrontation was about to ignite anew. Bondi opened with a calculated strike. "Senators, yesterday I presented evidence of a tainted confirmation process," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "Today, I bring you proof of intent." She revealed a new document, a handwritten note, allegedly penned by a key figure in Barrett's 2020 nomination team. This note, dated October 2020, details a private conversation where Justice Barrett was informed of expectations for her rulings on specific cases, including a landmark abortion case. It reads, "ACB nods, understands the stakes. This is not ambiguity. This is complicity." The chamber erupted in gasps and whispers, the note's implications seismic. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a vocal critic of judicial politicization, seized the moment. "Ms. Bondi, if this note is authentic, it suggests a deliberate breach of judicial ethics. But we need more than a scrap of paper. Who wrote it, and how did you obtain it?" Bondi's response was cagey but confident. "The note comes from a source within the nomination process, Senator. Its authenticity is corroborated by metadata and witness accounts, which I'm prepared to submit under seal." Her refusal to name the source fueled skepticism, but the note's specificity, dates, cases, even Barrett's initials, lent it a chilling credibility. Barrett's counsel, Margaret Kessler, countered with surgical precision. "Ms. Bondi, you're waving around a note with no verifiable author, no recipient, and no context," Kessler said, her tone icy. "Handwriting can be forged. Metadata can be manipulated. This is not evidence. It's theater." She produced a forensic report, commissioned overnight, that questioned the note's paper stock and ink, suggesting it was created far more recently than 2020. The revelation sent ripples through the room, but Bondi dismissed it. "Your report is a distraction, Ms. Kessler. The truth lies in the pattern. Memos, emails, now this note. The pieces fit too well to be coincidence." The standoff was electric, each side wielding doubt as a weapon. The senators grew restless, their questions sharper. Senator Mazie Hirono pressed Bondi. "You're accusing a justice of selling her vote before she joined the bench. Where's the direct link to Justice Barrett herself?" Bondi pivoted, unveiling an audio clip, grainy but audible, allegedly from a 2020 meeting. A voice, purportedly a campaign aide, said, "She's on board, don't worry." The clip was short, its speaker unidentified, but its impact was immediate. "That's not my voice," Barrett interjected, her composure fraying for the first time. "This is a fabrication, and I demand an independent analysis." Her outburst, rare and raw, silenced the room. Her defiance a stark contrast to Bondi's unrelenting assault. As the hearing paused for a technical break, the tension lingered like smoke. Barrett's team huddled, strategizing how to dismantle Bondi's growing arsenal. Bondi, meanwhile, conferred with her advisors, her confidence unshaken. The media camped outside, churned out breathless updates, while protesters' chants grew, hoarse but no less fervent. The note and audio had deepened the mystery, casting shadows over Barrett's integrity. Were they the smoking gun Bondi claimed, or a sophisticated trap? The truth seemed closer, yet maddeningly out of reach, and the next session loomed with the promise of more revelations. The Senate Judiciary Committee reconvened under a cloud of suspicion, the chamber's atmosphere thick with the residue of unresolved accusations. The technical break had done little to quell the firestorm. If anything, it had stoked the flames. Pam Bondi, undeterred by the growing scrutiny of her evidence, stood poised at the podium, her folder of documents now a symbol of either truth or deception. Across the room, Justice Amy Coney Barrett sat with a steely resolve, her legal team's whispers a quiet counterpoint to the roar of anticipation. Outside, the protesters' cries pierced the April air, their fervor undimmed. The nation watched, riveted, as the battle between these two legal titans neared its zenith, each move a potential checkmate. Bondi launched her next salvo with a flourish. Senators, the evidence I've presented, memos, notes, audio, is not isolated, she declared, her voice resonant with conviction. Today, I offer the linchpin, a sworn affidavit from a former Trump administration official who witnessed Justice Barrett's alleged commitments firsthand. The chamber gasped as Bondi held up the affidavit, its pages sealed with a notary's stamp. This official, whose identity is protected for their safety, claims they were present at a meeting where Barrett was briefed on desired outcomes for key cases. They state, and I quote, "She didn't object, she listened and nodded." This is direct testimony, not speculation. The weight of her words settled like a storm cloud, threatening to engulf Barrett's defense. Senator Cory Booker, his expression grave, challenged Bondi's bombshell. "Ms. Bondi, an anonymous affidavit is a weak reed to lean on," he said, his voice measured but firm. "Why should we trust a faceless source over a sitting justice's word?" Bondi's eyes flashed. "Senator, this source risks everything to expose a truth that threatens powerful interests. Their anonymity is a necessity, but their account aligns with every document I've presented." Her defiance was unshaken, but the anonymity of her witness drew skeptical murmurs from the committee and beyond. Barrett's counsel, Margaret Kessler, seized the opportunity to strike back. "Ms. Bondi, your affidavit is a shadow without substance," Kessler said, her tone razor-sharp. "No name, no face, no way to cross-examine. We've analyzed your prior evidence. The memo's metadata is inconsistent. The note's ink is suspect, and the audio's provenance is untraceable. Now you offer a ghost witness?" Kessler unveiled a new report from a digital forensics firm, claiming Bondi's documents showed signs of tampering, including altered timestamps. The revelation rocked the room, casting doubt on Bondi's entire case. "This is not justice," Kessler continued. "This is a vendetta." Bondi's face tightened, but she countered, "Your reports are smoke and mirrors, Ms. Kessler. The affidavit stands, and more witnesses are prepared to come forward." The senator's questions grew fiercer. Senator Josh Hawley, a Barrett ally, pressed Bondi. "You're dangling an affidavit with no verifiable author. How is this not a political hit job?" Bondi's response was icy. "Senator, the truth doesn't need a name to be true. The patterns in these documents speak louder than your doubts." The exchange was a verbal brawl, each side digging in as the stakes soared. Barrett, granted a moment to speak, rose, her voice trembling with controlled fury. "I have served this nation with integrity," she said. "These accusations are a calculated attack on the Supreme Court itself. I demand a full, transparent investigation, not just of these documents, but of Ms. Bondi's motives." Her words, raw and resolute, electrified the room, rallying her supporters and sharpening the divide. As the session closed, the chamber buzzed with unresolved tension. Barrett's team prepared to challenge the affidavit's legitimacy, while Bondi hinted at more witnesses waiting in the wings. The media frenzy outside exploded, pundits dissecting the affidavit's implications. Protesters clashed with renewed vigor, their chants a cacophony of rage and loyalty. The truth remained elusive, buried in a web of documents and secrets. What would Bondi's next witness reveal? And could Barrett's defense hold against the mounting pressure? The final Senate Judiciary Committee session dawned with the weight of a nation's scrutiny. The chamber, scarred by days of fierce confrontation, pulsed with a taut anticipation. Every seat filled, every camera trained on the podium where Pam Bondi would make her last stand. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, her composure a fortress against the onslaught, sat flanked by her legal team, their faces set with determination. Outside, the April air carried the relentless chants of protesters, their voices now a backdrop to a drama nearing its climax. The media, insatiable, churned out speculation, while the public awaited the truth behind Bondi's accusations. The stage was set for a reckoning, and the outcome would reshape trust in the judiciary. Bondi took the podium, her demeanor unshaken despite the mounting doubts about her evidence. "Senators, today I deliver the final piece of this puzzle," she declared, her voice cutting through the tension. She produced a USB drive, claiming it contained a recorded conversation from 2020, allegedly capturing a Trump aide pressuring Barrett to align with specific judicial outcomes. This recording, verified by independent analysts, confirms the affidavit's account, Bondi said. "You'll hear a voice say, 'ACB knows what's expected.' This is undeniable proof of a tainted confirmation." The chamber erupted. In murmurs, the USB drive a small but menacing object in her hand. Senator Amy Klobuchar, her skepticism sharpened by days of evasions, challenged Bondi immediately. "Ms. Bondi, you've given us memos, notes, and anonymous affidavits, all questioned. For authenticity, why should this recording be any different?" Bondi's eyes glinted. "Senator, this audio is time-stamped, sourced from a secure server and corroborated by multiple witnesses. Play it and judge for yourselves." The committee agreed to hear the recording, and a hush fell as the audio crackled to life. A muffled voice said, "ACB knows what's expected. She's solid." The words were damning, but the voice was indistinct, the context unclear. The room held its breath, waiting for Barrett's response. Margaret Kessler, Barrett's counsel, rose with a ferocity that silenced the murmurs. "Ms. Bondi, your evidence is a house of cards," she said, her voice ablade. "We've traced this recording's metadata. It was edited, its source a server linked to a known political operative." Kessler presented a bombshell, a sworn statement from a former Trump aide, now willing to testify publicly, claiming Bondi's documents were part of a coordinated effort to discredit Barrett for rejecting political pressure during her tenure. The aide's statement named Bondi's source, a disgruntled ex-official with a vendetta. The revelation stunned the chamber, turning Bondi's narrative against her. Bondi's composure cracked, her voice rising. "This is a lie, a desperate attempt to protect a compromised justice," she snapped, but her defiance rang hollow. Senator Lindsey Graham, his patience exhausted, pressed her. "Ms. Bondi, your source is discredited, your documents are suspect, and now your recording is tainted. What else do you have?" Bondi faltered, her folder empty of new tricks. The tide had turned, and the committee's mood shifted toward Barrett. Barrett, granted the floor, stood, her voice resonant with quiet power. "I have served with integrity, guided by the Constitution alone," she said. "These accusations were a deliberate attack, not just on me, but on the Supreme Court's independence. Let this be a call for transparency in our processes, not division." Her words, measured yet triumphant, drew nods from senators and applause from spectators. The committee, after tense deliberation, voted to dismiss Bondi's claims, citing insufficient evidence and recommending an investigation into her sources. As the gavel fell, the chamber exhaled, the tension dissipating like a storm's last gust. Outside, protesters dispersed, their chants fading. The media hailed Barrett's vindication, while Bondi's reputation took a bruising hit. The ordeal sparked bipartisan calls for reforming the confirmation process, ensuring greater openness to restore public trust. Barrett emerged stronger, her integrity affirmed, and the nation, though scarred, found closure in the truth. The judiciary, battered but unbowed, stood as a pillar of resilience against the shadows of doubt.